Hello, my friends. Hello, hello. Welcome. I am Omar Krieg, your Lord and Commander of the Krieg Dominion, and your host this evening for the ninth episode of Second Star, a Traveler 2300 AD role playing experience. Once again, I am joined by my fellow cast members, but before I get started and let them have a few seconds on screen, or, well, on mic anyway, because I'm the only one whose face you get to see. I just want to forewarn everybody. I now have a cat in my apartment. This is by choice, but he will occasionally meow and demand my attention, and will probably jump up on my desk and cause me to say, profane four-letter words and tell him to get the hell out of here. But anyway, yeah, just wanted to warn you. I do have a cat. That's like the big news excitement. Other than the fact that we haven't even been together for this show in, I don't know, 5 or 6 weeks. I'm not gonna count it because it might hurt my heart if I do that. Anyways, I am joined as always by Charles, Thurgore, and Agent Wiggles. I will now give them a moment to catch us up on their lives for the last few weeks, several weeks perhaps. Starting with Charles. Charles, what's new and exciting in your world?
Not much. It's finally the summertime, so been trying to get out and get to summertime adventures. Spent last weekend all the way over in Moses Lake with some friends and went to an air show, and the kids went to a water park and just, got away from the cold, wet that was last weekend in the Seattle region to enjoy the hot, uncomfortable in Eastern Washington.
Yes, the great weather patterns of the state of Washington. No, last week was a nice bit of a respite from the previous weeks because it had just been, well, for me personally, stupid warm, stupid hot, hot to the point where all my clothes are just sticking to me and I can't get away from it. So yeah, the last week or so of not so bad weather, even with it being a little bit damp out, was a nice little break for me.
Yep.
But I do remember the last time we had talked, or at least on screen, you had a con or two to go to.
Yeah, so I went to a con down in Olympia. It was miniature gaming, and that was 3 days of fun over Memorial Day weekend. It was kind of fun and exciting. I got into a couple of games. There was someone running uh, something called Gaslands, which is, imagine taking Hot Wheels cars and putting guns on them, and then
wow.
racing them around and taking shots. You take Death Race 2000 level type of stuff. And
Nice.
for those old enough to remember the old Car Wars board game, it's kind of the same way but really simplified, right?
Okay.
So you know you
The,
can,
the Steve Jackson game also has a Car Wars card game now.
yes,
That's pretty
yeah,
fun.
Oh,
yeah.
nice.
But
I
I
rem-
mean,
Go ahead.
go
Sorry.
ahead.
No. Go ahead.
All right, I'm gonna say, basically the rule book is pretty simple and easy. It's just a bucket of D6. You pick a gear, you go around. The faster you go around, you're always gonna be sliding around. You can put 2 or 3 weapons on a car. Most of them are standardized to be like a small sports car. You can only have like a guy with a machine gun, up to like semis with
Yeah.
turreted guns and rockets. So, but we had basically NASCAR type like cars zipping around this desert environment, and shooting, and it was definitely fun.
That does sound like a
And
lot
then
of fun.
yeah, and then there was I think I uploaded some pictures, but I think one of the other ones I got into, which was I don't know how the dude did it, but there's basically like 6 millimeter Napoleonic. I mean, it complete with each little platoon had a sergeant or an officer painted with the
Oh,
gold stripe,
nice.
but it's 6 millimeter. I mean, I
That's
mean,
like really
I'm
small. Like I'm not familiar with actual tabletop wargaming and that stuff, but it's
yeah,
6 millimeters sounds like it's going to be ridiculously small. I mean,
it is.
go ahead.
It is ridiculously small. So like that translates. I mean, the standard average, and I air quote average size of a figure is supposed to be a 5'5", 160, 150 pound guy. So
Right.
it's 6 millimeter is like really tiny.
Yeah,
And
man.
somehow he made them all look distinct, but it was real. I mean, I can paint, I can do some miniatures, but some of these cats, holy
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
I just wanted to go home and throw everything I bought away.
Now in Warhammer 40K, there's, what do they call it? A pile of shame.
Yes.
I believe.
Yes.
So, do you have an extensive pile of shame yourself?
I do. I have half a closet of shame.
Half a closet of
And
shame. I love it. You
yeah,
should trademark that phrase.
and both 28 millimeter and 15 millimeter and all sorts of stuff from World War II to some modern and some sci-fi guys. So
Yeah.
and then of course I did overspend and buy more people because why not add to the pile?
I mean, again, I've never gotten much into the actual physical tabletop role play, or I mean, wargaming. But that seems to be the norm. It's forget the pile of shame, add more shit to it.
Mm-hmm.
And at times, frequently, in fact, overspend, overindulge, as the case may be.
Yes, exactly. Yep. So,
all right, you got anything else before we move on?
Well, actually, yeah, I might be switching jobs soon, just because of some drama at work and things like that. Not involving me per se, but kind of being tangent around me. So I'm like, and I got a great offer to be kind of closer to home, so it'll be No, it doesn't really involve me. It's more along the lines of we're being bought out by somebody bigger, and that usually means realignments and everything else. So so bail out before that happens.
Yeah, because when that happens, and mind you, my work experience is almost predominantly military, and then driving for FedEx. When you get bought out, though, I do understand that there tends to be a lot of realignment, as you say, which is a corporate code word for some of y'all not going to be here much longer.
Exactly. Yeah. Or if you got an option, you can stay here for lesser pay.
Yeah.
Or you can go to the other location where we want you, which is even more unfun than where you're at right now.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I got an offer for someplace else, be closer to home, a better commute, and actually better hours, for lack of a better
commute. If you're anywhere near that Seattle sprawl, like I think you are, that's gold right there. That is gold right there. I've been through that commute. It's a bitch. I'm sure any major city it is, but like I just know that one in particular from personal hands-on experience.
Well, yeah, you're up north, right?
I'm south of. Well, I don't know where exactly you are, but I am in the southern part of the sound.
Okay, you're the southern part of the sound. Okay, yeah. So I mean, imagine that strip from the Squally to just south of JBLM.
I don't have to imagine that.
You drive that daily?
Hell yeah.
Then,
yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I got something like that going north to the Everett region from south end of the lake.
Yeah, you could pretty much, without going too far off on a tangent here, you could pretty much be stuck in traffic from that area all the way up and probably beyond Seattle.
Yeah.
On any given morning. Workday morning.
Yep. So I'm going to get a chance to not be doing that here soon. So I'm just waiting for the final paperwork and the last bit offer and things like that to come through. So
well, for what it's worth, and I hope I don't jinx it, but good luck. I hope everything works out, and also if that impacts your schedule at all for the show.
No,
let me know.
No, actually, it ought to make it better just because I don't have to worry about trying to rush home and stuff food in my face.
Gotcha. No, that makes sense. Thurgor, it's been a number of weeks. What's new and exciting for our newest, still an intern member of the crew?
No, I'm no longer an intern.
I figured you'd appreciate that.
I actually went to Seattle one weekend, a couple weekends ago. My oldest son re-enlisted. He got into the Prime Power group, which is a electrician kind of MOS where they do larger buildings and that kind of stuff.
Okay, it sounds like he's in the Navy, if I'm not mistaken.
No, he's in the Army.
Oh, in the Army. Okay.
Yeah, he enlisted. Of course, recruiters were involved. So
of course,
he enlisted as heavy equipment because they told him he couldn't enlist straight into electrician.
Right.
Which I tried to tell him that that's probably because they needed heavy equipment operators.
Probably, but anyway, sometimes that does happen.
Right. So he got into heavy equipment because it was just a single step into the Prime Power thing. It wasn't that you were going way outside your scope, to be transferred to that once he qualified. But he took his test, he passed them all with flying colors. He's gonna start leadership training. He's at the Joint Base there in Seattle, Tacoma,
Yeah.
and then in I think August or so, he's probably going to go back to Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri, which is actually where he went to basic
Yeah.
to do the electrician training stuff.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well,
Yep.
that's cool. What else you been up to, man?
And so I was down there on one of those weekends where it was like 74 degrees and sunny the whole time. Other than that, we've lost one of our doctors here at the clinic, and so it is just me now. So now I'm running 2 schedules,
Ooh.
and I'm on call 24/7.
Ooh, that sounds ewy.
So,
Understandable, but ewy.
yeah. And now I'm also going through, the resumes that come in and all that other kind of stuff to try to get somebody up here. So yeah, I've been a little busy.
Have you hit the point? And mind you, I'm only saying this for the joke because I realize there's a certain minimal amount of professional requirement needed here. That sounded wrong. That's not quite what I meant, but I feel like there comes a point where you're like, Jesus, I just need somebody with a heartbeat and a half a brain. Have you hit that point yet?
No, and I worked for corporate dentistry for over a decade, for like 13 years. And I was a regional director of like 7 different states and all that kind of stuff. And too often I saw the recruiters hiring what I call Dr. Right Now instead of Dr. Right. So I kept telling them, quit hiring Dr. Right Now, hold out until you get a Dr. Right. Because we were going through these doctors, like they wouldn't even make it through their orientation period. Oh. It's amazing how many people are credentialed and incompetent.
No, well, I'm jaded, so I've definitely had plenty of time to be like, you've been through this training. How are you still freaking stupid like this?
Right. So I'm a little busy, but it doesn't affect my after hours stuff unless I get a call. So that's my only hang up right now is I never know when I'm going to get a call. But we will handle it as it comes.
Well, your scene tonight will be one of the first ones. And before we go too much further on that, I realized while reviewing my notes for tonight that we may end up with a short session as compared to our normal sessions. So just as a heads up for everybody involved, this may not make quite the 3-hour mark. It just depends on how the individual scenes go, because for whatever reason, like I put hours into prep, not this past weekend, the weekend before, and I left the last major section off of what I had intended, and never went back to finish it. So, despite previous comments, I do need to take just a very quick moment. I think my son is trying to do something, because I just got a text saying that my Google code is this. So give me just a quick second and see what the hell is going on here. I'm sure it's something he needs me to do for like an internet access.
And if we need to stretch the session out, we can always start a fight with, station security or something.
I feel like that's not the best way to go. Okay, hopefully this gets him really quick. Okay. All right. Well, while my son is trying to figure out, I don't know. Why is he signing into my YouTube and email? Like, what is my kid doing? You know what? This is probably not the best time for me to figure that out, and I'll just wait and see what blows up during the stream. Well, I hope, hopefully they'll get some relief out there for you soon.
Yep.
But, hopefully quality relief and not just relief right now.
Exactly.
Which, relief for right now might be okay, but when things start settling down, you still need that higher level of competence that may not necessarily be there. So
exactly.
That takes us to Wiggles. Wiggles, what's new and exciting in your world? Several weeks since we last met.
Had a birthday.
Happy birthday.
So yay for that. Happy birthday. Yeah, actually it was yesterday.
Oh, nice.
Happy birthday.
Thank you very much. I started one Traveler paid for game that ended after its first session because the person who I made it for decided that he didn't like me as a GM. So I started the second game, and that's going much better. And we just had our first session, and that's going very well.
So you started a session with one person, and they didn't like the way you did things, so they dipped? Is that what happened? I
guess. Yeah, basically, they left the session a little bit early. Then afterwards, get some DM saying that, hey, you're not simpatico with me. I'm gonna call it quits. And I was like, all right, fine. And
You
so
know,
that game came to an end. On top of all that, he also didn't pay me.
now that's a little shady. I will say though, I can appreciate somebody that at least gives me the heads up. Be like, hey, this isn't gonna work, as opposed to the alternative, which tends to happen. And not that I know necessarily from a paid gig like this, but just in general, someone that just basically ghosts you. At least this dude, came up and said, hey, yeah, this isn't gonna work. Um, sorry, Mike.
Yeah, so I started a new game at a more reasonable time, and I've got 4 players, and that's fun. I got a dolphin, I got a spy, I got a noble lawyer, and I got an ex scout. It's doing well. They're investigating stuff, going over the place.
That sounds like quite the varied group, especially with that uplifted dolphin in there. I'm assuming it's uplifted.
Oh yeah, it's an uplifted dolphin. Yeah, the dolphin between Ocean and Moons, was a lifelong Imperial Navy.
Oh,
Right,
nice.
she retired out as a full captain, and they're having a good time. And the game takes place on Mora, which is mostly water world. So I'm really hoping to do some dolphin shenanigans.
Dolphin shenanigans. Nice.
Oh yeah, they just added that with the newest book to the main mongoose line is having uplifted dolphins and orcas.
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah, yeah.
think, now that I think about it, I may have actually seen something about it. I may, like, mind you, when I say I seen something, probably was I saw a headline or an advert or something like that, because I usually don't read too much into things unless I'm ready to actually dig it up. But I do vaguely recall seeing something about some uplifted species, which has also been something in Traveler pretty much since the earlier editions, as far as I know. Because I believe aren't the Aslan originally an uplifted lion
No,
or something like that?
it's the Varger or Viger.
Varger, that's it. Yeah,
Yeah, the wolves are
Yeah.
based.
Yeah,
yeah, that's it.
yeah. The ancients found Earth, and they went, "Oh, hey, humans are really awesome." Kidnapped a bunch of them and transplanted them across charter space
Yeah,
with little to no modifications. And then some of them also went, "Hey, dogs are really awesome," and did the same thing.
yeah. So now Vargers are everybody's best friend, except not really.
The Vargers have a very large patch of space all to themselves, and it's
Yeah.
a very there's no stable government up there. Not that it's an unstable place. It's just they form a lot of smaller enclave communities.
Yeah, I was gonna say they're more of a not necessarily a clan per se, but definitely a clan or familial based society. I haven't looked into it too much because as
Yeah,
cool as
no,
Traveler is, the official stuff I don't really go too much into.
the Aslans were originally space feudal Japan, and they kind of go like lions.
Yeah, yeah, I got them confused. It was the Vargar I was thinking of. I just thought it was the Aslan. Anything else?
Probably. No, I think that's about it or so. Yeah, no, that's about it or so.
Alrighty. Yeah, so for the viewers, I think we mentioned it briefly to some extent prior to our big break. But I had taken initially about 3 to 4 weeks off. This was planned because my second son was graduating from high school, so I had about a week and a half or so off. I drove down the week before Memorial Day weekend, spent the week down in San Francisco with my kids, all 3 of the kids from the first marriage, for the younger boys' graduation and stuff. Had an amazing time. One of the things I enjoyed the most, in fact, was having some quality one-on-one time with my son that in years past I have not had the same amount of that, we'll say bonding, for lack of a better word, because I'm usually able to communicate with or spend time with or do stuff even over the internet with my older son, but the younger one, that was really cool. We had a chance to bond a bit more than we ever had in the past, and it was really cool. Plus, I got to hang out with my daughter. And then the Memorial Day weekend, we started our drive back from San Francisco, and they were up here for about 2 weeks. And then, of course, during that time, I'm still working, so I didn't want to work and then come home and then stream for 3 hours a night, 4 nights a week, because I felt like that was just, gross misuse of our time together. So we ended up actually playing Dungeons and Dragons for about 4 nights in a row.
Cool.
Yeah, so my oldest boy is in Blood and Glory and the Celasta show, but the second son was wanting to get into some role-playing tabletop stuff, and so I was like, you know what, let's grab this Essentials box from Target for D&D and see where it takes us, me personally knowing from experience and whatnot that we're not going to be able to finish it all in just a few nights, but we got about 3 or 4 adventures in, or mini adventures, into the little mini campaign, I guess. I don't know what to call it. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. And now the two boys are, or at least they were talking before they left. They were talking about seeing if they could find some friends to actually get a tabletop group going for themselves or to be a part of a group. So that was a really cool accomplishment. And plus my daughter, who outside of video games doesn't know anything about RPGs that I'm aware of. So this was her first big break in that regard. So that was pretty cool. And then last week we were planning on getting together, but some personal stuff came up for one of the players. So we let that individual take care of that, and we called it for the night. And now here we are. And I think we're caught up. I have a cat. I mentioned that already. He is currently, I think he's actually asleep in front of the patio door on the floor. What it looks like he's doing. We're going to leave him be. So, previously on Second Star, the crew of the Wayfinder complete their mission above the gas giant Cosido in the Nyotakundu system, but in the process, to some people's chagrin, destroy what appears to be a very unique specimen of a never-before-seen plant, ostensibly from an entirely unknown part of the galaxy. With the crew of the OMS Andrew Carnegie resuming something close to normal repairs amidst extensive... Oh my god. I really did not proofread my writing. Hold on. Let me try this again. Resuming something close to normal operations amidst extensive repairs to the damages caused by maddened chief engineer, the ship departs Cosido after a brief crew transfer and the onboarding of a new pilot, senior pilot Joseph Milligan. Despite such a late addition to the crew, Milligan executes a proper deorbit from the gas giant and transits the ship out to the minimum required safe distance before engaging the stutter warp system, and the ship blinks off into faster than light velocities. In transit to the Bessiere system, the crew continues the normal daily operations, but for one or two out of the ordinary events. Particularly, it has been discovered that someone on the ship has been sending and receiving unauthorized and possibly even illegal messages, though who it is and who is on the other end remains completely unknown. Worse still, attempts to track this information down to solve this newest mystery are further hindered by the fact that the original source data is now deleted, perhaps by the very person on the ship who is the root of this problem. Arriving at the Istria station in the Bessiere system, the crew takes a brief holiday. Senior Trooper McAvoy takes his fire team into the local strip for drinks and relaxation, while Commander Wyatt and Senior Armsman Hellwig see to the normal trade operations. Senior Pilot Milligan does some shopping for parts for his weapons and sends off a few messages before returning to the ship. Lastly, McAvoy encounters a strange man with a strange task while at a local bar, one that McAvoy agrees to before returning to his team. And if you would imagine a TV show, there would be, some sort of opening sequence of credits or whatever, and then we'd lead in with something of an overhead shot looking down in a sort of a 3/4 top-down view, showing a number of small streets packed densely together. There's a few patrons stumbling about. Of note, Senior Trooper McAvoy, alone, the last to leave the bar, walking a bit drunkenly out onto the road and looking about, not sure which way to go. He picks a direction, walks slowly at first, not sure if this is the right way, peering over long at the street signs, and then realizes it's the wrong direction to get back to the hangars where the ship is docked. He turns the other way, passes back by the bar he came from, turns the corner. This side street, really more of an alley, with as tightly packed the space it is, it's dimly lit. A man, dressed in a poncho made of gray material, approaches quickly. A flash of steel as the man swiftly passes McAvoy, first brilliant in the meager light cast by a light post, then dulled with red. McAvoy turns, a look of shock and confusion, attempts to stop the man, but the man has already made his mark, made his attack, and is now moving away. McAvoy stumbles, tries to follow, but after only a few feet, trips over a layer of trash and falls face first. It takes a long time getting back up again, and when he does, it's only to his hands and knees before he drops again, his strength leaving him suddenly and irreversibly. 3 days go by before Captain Briggs is ready finally to depart. 3 days spent in meetings, interviews, reviews with the local law enforcement, the coroner, medical and legal authorities. Word spreads among the crew. Senior Trooper Steve McAvoy slain in the Istria Strip by some random burglar who, as it later appears to be, was simply trying to flee the scene where he had last attempted to hack into the local power grid as part of some other criminal enterprise. McAvoy's body is destroyed along with any property he was carrying that couldn't be clearly identified as Flex property or owned by anyone other than himself. Next of kin records are looked into and found surprisingly bare. The captain eventually returns to the ship, and finally the crew is cleared to leave with just one more report of a crewman's death filed away in the ship's logs. In a brief ceremony in the ship galley, Troop Commander Latoya Hurst and Troop Sergeant Julio Franco grant a conditional promotion to Senior Trooper for Kirsty Blaine, making her the next team leader for that fire team. And yeah, so that does that. Does anybody want to touch on the loss of a crewmate before we move on?
Yeah, I'm gonna, because I got two of those guys in the vehicle bay, cargo bay with me, and just mention it to them that this stuff happens, and we just gotta do the whole overcome. It's harsh. If you need to talk to someone, we can set you up with the virtual chaplain online, stuff like that. If you need to take time, I'm willing to let that happen. Blah blah blah, type of thing. You know.
Yeah, I think and I can't remember their names off the top of my head. I want to say it's Carl. Oh my God, Buford Aiello and Carl Spearman. Wow, I really dug deep to pull that out of the back of my brain. But I did it. I did it because I did come out of the back of my brain. I just had to go Rolodexing for a while. I think in some ways, because they're both kind of young, I think in some ways they're a little surprised, especially by the sudden, senselessness of it, if that makes any sense. I think they're definitely taken aback by that. I feel like they would know about some of the risks as far as being ship's troopers and, effectively being Flex's Marine Corps, how easy it is for someone to lose their life. And obviously life in the French arm or any of the arms can come and go at a moment's notice, but just the pure senselessness, the absolute lack of reason for it, is the part that's probably the most confusing or most difficult part of all of it to process, as I would imagine one can assume in such a scenario.
Right. Well, and I'll bring up the fact that and I'll talk to them using some of my policing background that the further we get out into the frontier,
right,
the more harsh people are, and that if you're not used to, and especially if you're a core worlder, you're kind of used to some level of security, and random crime doesn't happen all that time. But like the further and further we get out into the frontier and stuff like that, like we're going, the more, I don't want to say unruly, but yeah, lack of a better descriptor, unruly and less governed people are. So yeah, there's a lot more random crime, and just remind them that every time we go ashore, something could happen. So make sure you go out with a friend.
Oh yeah, and I think that's something that Blaine brings up at one point, even though she doesn't necessarily fall under your purview in any way, shape, or form. But I think maybe during one of your conversations with Aiello and Spearman, she comes along to scoop them up for some task for the LT, and she hears you guys talking, and she's kind of like, yeah, listen, the four of us went out as a group. And maybe part of the reason why McAvoy's not with us anymore is because he decided to stay behind when the rest of us departed. And maybe we should have done something about ensuring he came along, but you can only lead someone so much before they have to take individual responsibility. So, you can't bear all of their burdens for them. Just recognize
Yep.
what you might have been able to do better and try to learn from it and move on. And I think that's kind of the message that she gives. Because I feel like Blaine is a little bit older, like, you know, maybe say mid to late 20s, and the other guys are like early 20s. I never,
Right.
you know, obviously I don't have character sheets for all the crew members of the ship, but I kind of feel like that's where they're at.
Yep.
Anybody else? Anything regarding the passing of Trooper McAvoy?
So much paperwork.
Yeah. You know, I tried to make point of that. All joking aside, I had to give that a little bit of thought. Is like when a crew member dies in that sort of a scenario, my God, there would be so many different agencies involved trying to get answers, the paperwork to get questions asked and then answered. You know, I don't even know if 3 days would be a legit amount of time, even in the future with the technology and forensics available. I don't know if the ship would actually be cleared in 3 days or not. But I went with that. It sounded right. It felt right. I mean, you're on a space station of like so many thousands of people. It wouldn't be that hard, I would hope, to figure something out in a reasonable amount of time. But
Well, but at the same time, I mean, with the lack of a good background, you know, and then the press to get on moving on,
yeah,
you know, how much do you really know about this guy, and you know, how much time can you actually spend on this sort of like giving your word and then telling the local police force that, you know, if you need anything, contact us, but otherwise we got to get going.
yeah. I think short of actual, I'll say federal government level, uh, um getting in the middle of it, like Flex is like, listen, we're bigger than you. We're leaving. You know, you're basically a local cop. Yes, you're a local cop as part of this space station, which is owned by some major company and or government agency or even the government. But unless you specifically physically block us, we are leaving. And I think at some point there might be a little bit of not outright overt phrasing to that extent, but definitely some insinuations are thrown around like, we gotta go. Like, I don't answer to you. I've answered all the questions. I've given you all the information. We've done everything that is, you know, procedurally correct, but it's time for us to go. And I think by the end of it, because if you haven't noticed, Briggs has been wanting to go. Like, every time we stop anywhere along the way so far, he doesn't want to stick around any longer than he has to. Of course, you know, he's under orders to get out to Beowulf so he can report to the squadron commander and get his ship into the fray, as it were. Not that there's really much of a fray right now. But anything else, or shall we move on to the piloting stuff to get the ship underway?
The wife and I are gonna buy some bug detector equipment and some bug jammers.
Oh.
And we're gonna buy this with our own money on our own time.
Okay.
My own time.
Well, I mean, you're already out and about in the station when you're doing your trade deals. Speaking of, I believe our last updated number was somewhere in the neighborhood of a running profit of about 600 grand.
Yeah, we're doing good.
We're doing good, he says.
We're doing good.
One of these days, I'm actually going to check your books too, and probably get confused.
I do. I actually keep a fairly detailed record.
I'm sure you do. No, that wasn't me trying to call you out. That was me calling me out, saying I haven't been paying as much attention as I ought to have been. Yeah.
The next one should make a lot of money. So we bought like pharmaceuticals. We bought 3 tons of pharmaceuticals. Their base price is 100,000, and we bought them at 55.
Oh,
so
nice.
at the very least, we're gonna double. Our money on the pharmaceuticals.
Okay.
And the cybernetics, we bought 3 tons of that. And that base price is 250,000, and we bought them at 140,000. So we'll be close to doubling our money on that as well. So next trip, that's the money. That's the money trip. Next trip is gonna.
Go. All right. Well, speaking of next destination.
Anyway, yeah. Buying bugs and stuff like that, unless there's challenges to that and whatnot.
I feel like. Well, so I feel like you can get some really.
They're not illegal.
Stuff.
I mean, yeah.
Not without doing a real hard look at the rules, and I'm not about to do that right now. I will say this. If you get some real basic stuff, you can find some decent, not great, no modifiers added for relatively cheap and relatively easy. If you want more modifiers on top of that, that's when the price starts going up, and that's when it takes maybe a die roll or two to see if you find something good.
Yeah, mostly I'm just looking for the thing that's inside the equipment book.
Inside the what? I'm sorry?
There's a bug sweepers inside the equipment book.
Ah, yes. Let me pull that up real quick, because I don't have that one open.
So it's in chat. It's in the travel. It's in the Discord.
Oh, okay. Travel General.
Yeah. Joseph was kind enough to find this for me earlier before the break.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, bug detectors, 5,000, and it gives you detecting a bug, a 10 plus with electronic sensors, or an investigate intelligence. Okay. All right, yeah, go ahead and knock out 5,000. You just got paid too, so let's talk about paychecks before we actually get.
Oh, okay, we're gonna do paychecks. All right.
Yeah, let me find my notes.
I can afford that.
Yeah, because your paycheck is 4,500 alone. Your wife receives 3,500, but I will point out, and she points it out almost every month. But her money goes into an entirely separate account as she handles her own finances as needed. I.e., she doesn't want you touching your money, and she's not touching yours.
You know, there's a lot of couples who operate that way, right?
Yeah.
They have a joint account, and that's for all the utilities, and then they have a lot of money they spend on themselves, and that's just how they.
Yeah, and if one needs help from the other, there's open communication. There's money transferred. No harm, no foul. All's good.
Yeah, and we're not doing this because we don't want to track an NPC's personal spending habits. No.
Other than that, Senior Armsman Hellwig and Senior Pilot Milligan both receive 1,300 Libra. And then, of course, as I said, Wyatt gets 4,500, and Mrs. Wyatt / Chief Engineering Officer Wyatt receives 3,500. So yeah, you've definitely got the money to pick up the bug detectors. Let me see, what does that actually say specifically? Used to find electronic surveillance devices. For the basic broadcast bug, this is simply a matter of scanning relevant frequencies until a bug signal is picked up, then triangulating until it is found. More sophisticated bugs, okay. And then the bug jam. Are you getting the jammer as well, or just the bug detector?
I'm getting both.
Okay. All right. Make sure you update.
I'm gonna.
Go ahead.
Update my monies.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So you would treat it like an electronics roll, and it would just give you those modifiers using the electronics roll.
Yep.
Yeah. I don't have electronics. I have to use investigation, but I'm sure I can find someone that's electronics. I have a clever ruse to search the ship for bugs.
There you go. Yeah, we'll see. Well, you'll have a moment to do something like that if you wish. Once we get underway. I love this GIF that you just posted, Charles. The Jetsons one. I can't look at Discord no more. I'm not gonna pay attention where I need to pay attention. All right. So yeah, go ahead and update your character sheets for your paychecks. It is now the 2nd of May. It is 1,800 hours, and the ship is about to get underway. Let me see. All right, first things first. I need someone to roll 2d6 plus 2. This represents Navigator Marshall Tran. So yeah, wow, I did not enunciate that correctly. Navigator Marshall Tran rolls electronics computers 8 plus to analyze latest navigation data. He has a total of +2 modifiers, and this takes 2d minutes. And as it turns out, according to the rules, the way I understood them, those minutes get added on. Those minutes and hours will be getting added on to the 1,800 timeline, and that once we do all the steps of getting into warp, that is the time that you actually transit to FTL velocities, and then we count the hours until we get to the next station. I may have totally bumbled the way I just said that, so it didn't make any sense, and it's fine if it didn't. I have my notes, and that's what we're going to go by. So I just need one person to roll 2d6 plus 2. We need electronics computers 8 plus. I don't care who it is.
I got it.
Okay.
Oof.
All right. Well, Fortunately, that doesn't really impact anything. It's just to see if he can find the latest navigation data. And his information is out of date, so whatever. That takes... Oh, that's not the button I wanted to hit. That takes us 2D minutes, so it's 1800 plus 7. And time is now 1807. Alright. So the next task is the senior sensors operator Yvonne Bishop rolls electronic sensors 10 plus to scan for local threats. This takes 1D hours. Total modifiers plus 2. So I just need another 2d6 plus 2 from someone representing the threat roll.
Okay.
Oh, I just did it. Sorry.
That's okay.
That's okay.
You've got, you know what, Milligan, let Charles get, or even Wiggles for that matter, get a couple rolls in here as well. 7 plus 2 is 9.
I rolled 17 times. I'm okay.
Yeah, I had a lot of cargo from Istria, and I've got a bunch more at your next station too. 7 plus 2 is 9, so that's a pass. And the time on that I said was 1 die hours. So that's going to take 5 hours to get through all of that. So now it is 18 and 5 is 2307 on the second. Our next task, Marshall Tran rolls astrogation 8 plus to determine proper course. This takes 1 die 10 minutes. I'm updating my notes so I can keep track here. I just need... I didn't add his modifiers in for this one. It's probably a plus 2. So another 2d6 plus 2 for 8 plus.
Okay.
That's a 7. That also has no effect. This is 1d10, or excuse me, 1d times 10 minutes. That takes about 30 minutes to complete. It is now 23:37. 7.
I have a question.
I'm listening.
Since I don't come into play in all of this until after these steps are done, and I have skill in astrogation, should I or could I be also trying to chart and all that other kind of stuff, the jump, just for the experience of it or whatnot?
Are
Would
you
that help us
asking?
at all?
I mean, you could be. Okay, let me ask this: are you asking so that you could make the roll where it would be a pass, or are you just doing it to practice of your own accord, independent of what Navigator Tran is doing?
Well, I would probably take it to him when I was done, you know, to see how it compared with his charts and all that kind of stuff. But
And then go with the better result because maybe he realizes he made an error and you didn't, or vice versa, as the case may be.
that would be up to you. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, go ahead and make a roll. Astrogation, what'd I say? Astrogation Intelligence 8 plus. Wiggle says he has a snappy comeback.
Okay.
I always got a snappy comeback.
Yeah, mine was just as good.
Because you got like a total of +4 or something like that.
On astrogation, I actually. Oh yeah, I do. Hang on. Yeah, I have +4.
Because you got your intelligence, your astrogation, plus you got using your brain to actually move the ship.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. It takes me twice as long to do it if I use my reference guide stuff.
Gotcha.
But yeah, I can also do it without the reference guide because I actually have the skill anyway.
So you like have one of those like books have a bunch of like pre-done calculations that you use, and
yeah, I have reference library stuff for medical, mechanic, electronics, comms, and astrogation. And
that's stored
on
your that's stored on your subderma comp or whatever it is that you have, isn't it?
Yep.
Yeah, because he's like kind of a cyborg, but not really.
Mm-hmm.
Wiggles, actually, you get to make this roll.
I do?
Yeah, Chief Engineer Alia Wyatt rolls Engineer Star Warp Education 6 plus, and it takes 1 die hours. My understanding is you have a total of a +3. Oh, look at that.
Well, she got an 8.
Yep, and what did I say? 1D? Yep, 1D hours. So that's going to take 5 hours for her to complete. And it is now 23 and 5 is 28, minus 24 is 0437 on the 3rd of May. Make sure I got everything up to date. And lastly, our big one. This is the make or break. Does it actually impact anything? This is Senior Pilot Milligan piloting Intelligence 6+, taking 1D hours, and whatever the effect is times 1D hours is added or subtracted from the total transit time. So, one step at a time, I need a Pilot Intelligence 2D6. Excuse me, I'm sorry. Pilot Intelligence 6+, if you will, please.
Okay, so I have a total of +4
Yep. So basically, you just need to roll.
because I'm jacked into the ship.
Yep. All right, so now you have 8 + 4 is 12, so that's 6 times 1d6. 18 hours that you have somehow managed to take off the transit time of 96 hours.
Yes.
Now I gotta don't forget that number. Give me a second because I gotta update my notes, and it had
What number?
well the 18 hours.
Okay.
Yeah, I had everything written out so that it's actually kind of a stupid way to do this. I'm gonna have to refine it the next time, but I had it written out so that I would like basically fill in all the information and it would calculating the hours for me. Okay, so it takes 1D hours, 1 hour. And so that means our departure time is 0537 hours on the 3rd of May, 2297. You guys officially departed the Bessier system.
Yes, and we didn't get our refund from the starport.
We'll retroactively add that back in. Because you were there for, I'm gonna say 4 days, so I'll go back to my notes in a moment once I figure out when you guys get to where you're going next.
Okay.
Yeah, just bear with me. I'm doing some high-level math here. All right, 96 minus 18. That's 78 hours. That's 3 days and 6 hours. So that means you guys will arrive at the Neubayern system on the 6th of May at 11:37 hours in the morning. And now we gotta do some math. Okay. Oops, I needed that. Actually, I think I need to open up my other set of notes for. Get out of here. I do. I didn't put. Shit. Okay. Just bear with me as I wander through all the files and folders of my computer to find what I'm looking for. Here we go. En route. In system arrival. Fuel, 80,000 a week, prorated at 11,430 per day. You were there for, I'm just gonna say 4 days, so 11,430 times 4, 45,720, 80, 45,720. You get 34,280 Libra back.
Woot!
And then I imagine you included the 18. I'm imagining you included the minus 36,000 to refuel the ship.
Yep, that's on there already.
All right, good. All right, I think we're good on the bookkeeping part. Get this out of here and back to here. All right. So it is going to take you guys a little over 3 days to get there. So yeah, 3 days and 6 hours to get to the Neubayern. Somebody was from Neubayern or Nibelungen, I believe. Wasn't there? Or is that
No. I'm from Barnard Star, so
yeah, but it was Charles or Lee who's no longer with the group. Lee was from, I think, weren't you guys both from Ogoro?
No, I'm from Innsbruck Station on Agaru.
Okay.
AUG, yeah, closer towards the core, I thought.
Ogoro comes up in like either the next destination or the one after it.
Okay.
Without looking at the map. because I'm staring
All
at
right.
Word documents right now.
Yeah.
Real quick, Australis did mention a while back, bugs is as in, I want a can of Raid for keeping the local insect population away, or by bugs you mean the kafirs, and you're looking to buy a couple hundred 20-gallon drums of chemical weapons grade, air quote, bug spray. That's funny.
Not yet.
Not yet. Not yet. We got a little ways to go yet. In fact, in May of 2297, the Kefir are not even known to basically anybody at this point. Other than whatever, there's an alien race that the Kefir subjugated that the humans don't find out about until after their war. I can't remember. I want to say Eber, but I don't think that's right.
Nope.
It's another
I
alien race.
can't even pronounce it. It's Yllii.
Oh, the Ili.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are those the tree people or someone else?
It's another
That's
one.
somebody else.
I forget. I have this image in my head of long, spindly fingers. I don't know
Yep.
if I was thinking about the Rhodians from Star Wars, or if I'm thinking about the Ili. I really don't remember without looking into it. So I do have a couple things. Well, I have a scene for each of you to conduct during the transit to Neubayern. Or Nibelungen, whichever you want to call it. But before we do that, is there anything you guys want to do individually or as a group or what have you while you're in FTL transit?
Well, the troop commander and I are OI and the troop commander are probably going through people to replace oh goddamn, what's the thing? McAvoy.
McAvoy, yes.
McAvoy, yeah. So we're probably going through personnel records to find a replacement for that.
Okay.
And I want to do a bug search for the ship, and I want to disguise it as doing a metal fatigue test in the entire ship's interior.
Nice. Something that the engineer's husband would come up with, who happens to also be the XO. Nice.
It's something that requires you to use scanners and go to every room on the ship and be in there a while.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. It definitely checks out. So let's talk about McAvoy. McAvoy's replacement. Troop Commander Latoya Hurst basically says that they've designated Kirsty Blaine to, on a conditional basis, take over his role until they can find another body. Obviously they probably won't get another person on board until she's expecting Beowulf. Before they have another person brought on board to take his spot. Assuming, of course, that by the time you guys get there, that information will be already relayed up to Beowulf. Oh, excuse me. Go ahead.
If she performs the position well, are you going to consider her for the position permanently?
That is an interesting thought, XO. It's definitely one worthy of consideration. Her service record so far has been, at the very least, adequate. And I feel like I'm doing her something of a disservice by saying adequate. She actually did pretty well on the station, on the Andrew Carnegie. When we did our little...
She already interfaces well with Spearman and Arlo. I mean, that they already have a working relationship. That it's hard to build up.
That is true, and also don't feel bad, XO. I can't pronounce his name correctly half the time either, but I believe it's Aiello.
Aiello.
Exactly. God, I love the random name generators I used.
I grew up speaking, Belter Pidgin, so
Yeah. No, I get it. I got a couple of names to look through. I imagine I'll get a couple more, along the way between here and Beowulf, but I imagine by the time we get to Beowulf, either Flex will have someone for me, or I'll have to give Flex an answer. I will, however, put Blaine in the list for consideration. I don't see any reason outside of regulatory minimum time requirements for her promotion. If anything, I'll probably just say screw it and let her stay there and tell them to give me another trooper. But you know how Flex is. Flex gives and Flex takes.
Okay. If you need any help with the administrative stuff, you know my office hours.
Office hours for the XO are, I believe, 23:59 to 23:58. Daily.
Yeah, something like that. I eventually get to sleep.
But only if nobody's calling you.
Only if no one's calling me. Look, every hour I'm awake, the captain gets to sleep.
Right? Exactly. All right, well, XO, if you don't have anything else for me, I don't think I got anything for you.
No.
All right.
Thank you, and you're dismissed.
Thank you, sir. For your stress test that you want to do,
Might as well actually also do a stress test while we're doing it.
Yeah. I'm trying to think like how I want to pull that off because I know what you're going for. You're trying to find bugs on the ship, believing that there are blood. Jesus Christ, I really do know how to talk. But yeah, you're trying to find bugs on the ship, believing that they were placed there by someone related to whoever this spy or whatever is. I think somebody called him a spy. It's not necessarily a spy, but
if the spy or just person downloading weird porn, that's why they're keeping it on the hush hush. You know, they're wearing clown hides and riding horses. That's just what they're into.
Hey, no kink shaming. No kink shaming.
Right. Anyway, it's either something incredibly embarrassing or it's nefarious, right? I mean,
in the grand scheme of things, if you are trying to hide something, it's usually one of those two things, if not both. Debbie does campers. Oh my God, Australia! That's a bad image, man. That's a bad image.
If it's nefarious, then they have to be trying to sell information more of the ship, which means they need to get information they don't have access to. And to me, that says bug. I mean, they might just be reporting on our actions, just generally where we are and what we're doing, and that wouldn't require a bug, right? They're just reporting on our actions as an observer. In which case, a bug wouldn't be required for that.
Well, I mean, if I'm trying to imagine if I was not necessarily a stowaway, but if I was up to some nefariousness on a ship, I might be putting a bug or two out every now and again somewhere just to give me some sort of cushion, some sort of early warning device to know if I'm about to get picked off, or so I know where other people of importance are, so I'm not doing something nefarious when they're close by. So maybe there is a bug. Maybe there isn't. Why don't you go ahead and give me that investigation roll, though? You need a 10 plus, you get intelligence for it.
Alrighty then.
And we'll say
that you actually have investigation.
Yeah, and we'll say that this takes the course of the 3 days that you are in transit as you slowly work your way through the ship. Because you don't want to draw...
Yeah.
I imagine, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, I imagine you're not trying to draw too much attention to what you're really doing, and you're trying to pass this off as a normal, routine check kind of thing.
Yeah, no, this is something we should... Mental fatigue on the ship is probably something that we have to do probably on a quarterly or half-year basis anyway, just to make sure there's no microfractures and we're all going to get sucked out in our sleep.
Yeah, I mean, this is a ship that does, atmospheric interfacing, so... Alright, you got a total of a 9 there. You needed a 10, unless you want to tell me a different number.
No, I got a 9.
Okay.
I got a +2. I got +1 investigation, +1 intelligence. So I got a 9. I probably would be taking my time. That would reduce the difficulty by 2, but I'm not really sure how that interplays with trying to keep it secret.
Yeah, I think they kind of cancel each other out at the same time, or yeah, I think they would just cancel each other because you're trying to keep it secret, but you're also trying to take your time, so you're trying to be thorough. But if you spend too much time being thorough, it kind of gives away what you're really doing, because maybe there's a casual observer that's like, wait a minute, the book says this takes so many man hours, but you're taking well more than that. Something's not adding up. So that could tip your hand a little bit there. Here's what I'll give you. As far as you could tell, there are no clear out-and-out indicators of bugs or any, we'll just say, extra devices anywhere on the ship. Everything appears to be as it should be. But every now and again, you did pick up some sort of signal or some sort of indicator, but it was one of those kind of like if you were using a metal detector on a beach and it would just pick up random thing, but you can't find said random thing, and it would never give you enough of an indicator to actually pinpoint anything. So effectively you're left with nothing new, but there is that like lingering doubt. Maybe if I did another sweep, but I got to find another way to do it because we can't do it the same way. Otherwise, people will start wondering what the hell's going on. People might start wondering if the ship is under stress. You know, things of that nature.
Yeah, yeah. And the other thing I wanted to do is I wanted to have the communication system just like whatever our deepest diagnostics of the comm system is, short of rebuilding it.
I think Star Trek would call that like a level 10 diagnostic. I'm not sure.
Yeah,
I never did understand the whole level this, level that diagnostic system. I could never tell if the lower number was more intrusive or if the higher number was more intrusive. But I get where you're going with that. In fact, I have something related to that as part of yours and Charles's scene coming up shortly. So
okay,
I'm
and I have one more thing.
Yeah.
One more thing.
All right,
I want
Columbo, calm down. Never mind. You may not get that
I want to add in a. I want to add in a device like a USB stick that will just do a call log. I wanna put in I'm gonna put in a checksum, and then I'm gonna give the comm officer a number, right? And so each of the messages that he approves of, he has to app in this number, and then the third party device will check to see if that number is present, and it'll log all the comms that don't have it. That way, we'll know when unauthorized comms are used.
I remember,
and like sending like a text message or something.
Yeah, you'll get a notification when there's unauthorized use or use that doesn't include that the little kicker or footer.
Right, and it's like I wanted to be like as close to the as far as the physical system goes. There's like all the computers that process the information. I wanted to be as close to the transmitter as possible. To be out of that outside that loop. So something that couldn't be interfered with via software. But they have to like
you
actually
want
physically
to get to where the actual transceiver array or whatever the Traveler 2300.
I want to isolate a device that they can't affect with software.
Okay. All right. It's 2300 AD Norton antivirus checking for malware, according to Australis. But it's using Windows 2200. That's the problem. That's why it's not finding everything. Okay. Also, one last thing, Wiggles. Last session, I know I had you do some rolls. I don't remember exactly what you were doing, and I know the results were actually pretty good, as I recall. I don't recall, and I didn't bother to look at my notes. Lazy GM, sorry. Do you recall? I know you wanted, initially you would want it, not initially, I know at the end of your quote-unquote turn, you wanted to introduce that checksum device. Yep. But we didn't, as I don't remember.
I rolled.
Sorry?
It was a stated goal. I either stated in the game or I stated inside the super hidden chat.
The super hidden chat, yeah. I remember at some point you were talking about adding that the little footnoter. That's what we're going to call it, by the way. The footnoter 2300. Windows 2300 will be a subscription service. Okay. All right. Thurgor, we're up to you now.
All right.
This is what your scene looks like. This is, so you've got like a little over 3 days of transit time, and probably about a day in. Marshal Tran, who is your supervisor, he's the navigator for the ship. Between the two of you, you guys are the flight team. He approaches you while you're on shift on the bridge, and I'll just say Tran is a short Asian man, stocky build, but he's got blonde, and it's not dyed either, by the way. But he's got blonde hair and a small mustache, Jesus Christ, closely cropped and trimmed in military fashion. He says, Milligan, do you go by Joe or Joseph, Joey?
So Joseph's fine.
Joseph, awesome. Hey, listen, I was wondering if I could get your help with something.
What's up?
So, obviously, as we all know, spaceflight can be, well, mundane until it's not, and then it goes back to being mundane again. Let me ask you: do you remember some of that flight simulator training that we did back at the academy?
Sure.
And also, real quick, out of character, just for clarity's sake, when he says academy, he's referring to the flight training you did for Flex, not any other flight training.
Right. That's okay. That's what I assumed. Yeah.
Okay. Listen, did they have you guys do that same stupid Hohmann transfer to get from terrain to insert the name of terrain's moon? The
I'm
one
sure
that was
they
like
did.
ridiculously simple that like a middle schooler could have figured it out with a calculator and a piece of paper.
They're, the bar's set a little low when they're looking so hard for somebody.
I feel like you might have something to go with that statement, but I digress. Listen, here's what I've done. The point is, I've got a lot of time on my hands, once the ship actually gets out underway. I've written up a few different training scenarios, and I was wondering if you could help me run through them real quick, i.e., not really real quick, to see what your thoughts are, because if we can clean these up nice and neat, I'm going to send them off to Flex and be like, listen, come up with some real shit instead of these, do a home and transfer around the moon.
Alrighty.
So I'm going to break out a character for this one. So what he's done is he's got 3 different scenarios, and these are basically just going to be you rolling some dice. That's really the mechanic here, but we'll incorporate some role-playing elements as well, just so it's not as mundane or boring. The first one, Tran, basically, he sets up a little. I'm not a very computer literate technical guy, but I imagine he would set up some sort of virtual environment so that you can actually use the computer like you would in real life, but it doesn't actually affect anything. It just manipulates whatever's inside the environment. Anyway, he sets up this flight simulator, and you are on the surface of Earth, some remote location. You have a flight plan, and he's actually starting to read you this as though this is like, I don't know if you're familiar with the military in any way, shape, or form, but we used to call them task conditions and standards, which is basically like, this is what you're going to do. These are all the different variables and parameters and things that you have to do it under. And then here's your standards, which is, in order to successfully complete this task, you have to do it in so much time or do so many repetitions or whatever the case might be. And he's kind of giving it to you in that kind of a format. And he's like, all right, so this is what you'll do. Remote location on Earth, your flight plan is to rendezvous with an international research facility in high orbit. You're going to start up, taxi, lift off, and rendezvous. Your flight plan's already been filed. In fact, as of the start of this scenario, traffic control is waiting for your initial response to their. I don't do flight traffic control either, so whatever the words are for when they say, "Okay, go ahead and start your taxi," that's what they're waiting for. There you go, Australis. Microsoft Flight Simulator 2300. Jesus Christ, guys! I'm trying not to pay attention to everything else. So just do a couple simple piloting rolls to get through these various steps. In fact, really the only one you need to do is the actual rendezvous process. So if you've ever played Kerbal Space Program, or here's a slightly older one that you may be familiar with, Orbiter. This is literally just like you're gonna taxi from either a hangar or some sort of passenger onboarding corridor. Taxi out to the main runway, hit the runway, rotate, climb. At some point along the way, you'll have to switch from oxygen burning oxygen intake. I'm sorry, to your onboard oxygen stores because obviously you'll be in space,
Right.
and then maneuvering for rendezvous. And this whole scenario time, at some points you can obviously speed up time, time compression, whatever you want to call it, because in real life this might take anywhere from 4 or 5 hours to 12 or more hours, depending on what kind of orbit you end up in and how do you get that orbit to sync up with your destination. Because Hohmann transfers are indeed a real thing. Yeah, so just a real quick roll, piloting roll. This is just to make sure you pull off the actual rendezvous with no problems.
So the first thing I want to do is, of course, jack into the system.
Yeah.
As part of my initial assessment of what I'm looking at in that computer, I want to verify that it's local, that it's contained, that it is just a simulation.
Yeah. This. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, that's it.
As far as you can tell, yeah, everything is self-contained, virtual environment. Anything you do inside this environment, most importantly, won't have an impact on anything outside, like the actual ship itself. So if you do a quick hard yaw to one side, the ship isn't going to suddenly spin around.
Right. Yeah, I just want to make sure there's no data being exported from the simulation to anything else. So
yeah, if you are suspecting Tran of doing any sort of like running secret malware underneath so you can get some sort of biometrics off of you or anything like that, like none of your indicators or triggers are popping on that.
Okay, doke. So you need what?
Just a
small
regular
ship piloting.
Yeah, just a regular old piloting to like effectively just determine if you can make rendezvous or if you'll fail the scenario. I'm gonna laugh if you don't make a basic rendezvous. This is literally, by the way, in Orbiter, this is literally the rendezvous with the International Space Station mission. I've just travelerified it.
Right. So my modifier is +5, not +4. I was looking at the wrong spot for my intellect and thought I didn't have a bonus, and I do. So
no worries. So you basically just need +5. Yeah, you just need a 3 or better. So don't roll snake eyes.
Why do you say these things?
To make it more exciting. You're rendezvousing with a freaking ISS, for crying out loud. Look at that. You made it just fine. You're just fine. Woo. All right, the second scenario, and let me back up. So Tran, this whole process in real time takes probably about 2 hours, because there's maybe like the first time you try to do something, you react exactly the way you would if you were actually sitting in a pilot seat, but the program didn't account for some sort of biometric feedback, and so when you rotated, you pulled too hard, because this is what you would normally do, like that amount of pressure you would apply to the stick, right? But it didn't translate to the same inside the program, and so when you first nosed up, rolling down the runway, it instead of going up by only a few degrees, they went up by like 40, which obviously the back end of the spacecraft kind of scraped across the pavement of the runway. So Tran was like, oh, no, restart that. That was garbage. Hold on, let me fix these real quick. Quick editing of the code or what have you. And then you're off again. And then later on, he walks you through a couple of things that you did. He sees that, some of your technique is very smooth, very crisp, almost literally by the book, but he noticed a couple times some slight, I'm trying to find the right word here. Not really flair, but definitely could tell that there was a certain amount of like personal talent-based input. I'm sure there's a word for it, and I cannot think of it to save my life right now. But definitely like, okay, you did everything by the book except for that one part where you just added a little bit of you in it, and it worked just fine. No worries. And then your rendezvous and docking with the ISS that we're not actually calling the ISS. Pretty straightforward and right on the spot. Event number 2, it's a basic undock and deorbit. This is a continuation from the previous sim. However, unexpectedly, a new weather system has popped up along your previously filed flight plan, and you will have to account for that in your actual flight time.
Okay.
So
does flight control not take care of all those reroutes?
They're actually leaving it up to you. You're the
Okay.
one in the moment, so they're gonna defer to you. So your options basically are, and we'll just assume you've already undocked, burned away from the station for safety minimums, and now you're prepping for your deorbit burn. Which, of course, if you know anything about orbital dynamics, your deorbit burn has to be done at a certain angle in order to
Yep.
get your arrival to be at a certain point to account for any obstacles or what have you along the flight path. So you have the option of you can either go through the storm, but doing so increases the difficulty, or you can go around the storm, but your overall flight time increases from 2 hours to 3 hours.
Okay.
And you get the feeling that Tran is kind of watching to see how you actually, which way you go.
Okay.
Full burn,
So-
90-degree insertion, max friction. Jesus Christ, Wheels. That's how you die. That's how you die on reentry, my friend.
No. Max friction, you get super hot, you boil away the storm, no more storm.
No more ship either.
The third option is definitely to beat the storm to the station, right?
Jesus.
Okay, so
Right. The storm is pulled up at the stoplight and has looked at you and gave you that look.
That look. We know that look. We don't even have to explain what
Yeah.
that look means. We all know. Anyway, how is Milligan going to respond to the fact that on his originally filed flight plan there is a sudden large storm? Is he going to go through the storm, or is he going to find a way around it?
that depends on some factors.
Okay, what would you like to know?
What am I taking back to the planet? Just this ship and myself, or is there something urgent, or
That is
Is
a
it-
great question. And Tran gives you that exact response. And you can see he doesn't take out like a literal notepad. And he
Mhm.
doesn't even take out like a literal notepad on the computer, like, Microsoft Notepad or whatever.
Right.
But you could definitely tell he's taking notes. Add cargo,
So let-
add reason for,
Yeah. So
to
like
give
if I was transporting somebody that was in medical distress or whatever, and we were trying to get them to a planet-side facility, I would probably do my best to land as quickly as
You know what you
possible.
get-
But if it's just me returning the interface ship, I'm going to
Right,
take
right.
the long way.
Yeah. If there's no need to rush, why rush? Wiggles does mention in stream, Jesus Christ, man. You just got a text from your port boo, and their parents aren't home. Do with that information as you will.
Their parents aren't home.
Yeah.
That's a little young. That's a little young for me at this point.
The roommates aren't home.
Yeah, I was gonna say either the roommates or their kids aren't home. I think the intent here is the same. Do you make this booty call, or you just take a little longer?
Well, I don't need long once I get there, so I'm still going to take the long way.
All right, go ahead and make your piloting roll. If you're taking a long way around, it's just an 8+.
Okay.
And there you go, you got it. All right, Tran makes notes. There's a little bit of feedback again, and by feedback I mean his critique or whatever. As far as your entire procedure, undocking was smooth. You technically you were about 400 or 500 meters short of the minimum safe distance, but obviously minimum safe distances include a little extra cushion anyways. So while technically you could get docked for it if this were an actual flight review, like for your pilot's license or something, like you would actually lose points for that. But as far as Tran's concerned, Tran's kind of like, in the real world, we might have gotten a little bit closer than just 400 or 500 meters off. We might have been like 600 or 700, or even a full-on kilometer or two. So he gives you kind of like that little side eye, like, yeah, we know the book says this, but we know we can do this in real life. And then your deorbit burn, pretty straightforward. You adjust the course around the storm, no biggie. Flight was pretty smooth, landing, touchdown, etc. All good to go. For your third event, the tested pilot is required to break orbit head out system for an FTL jump to a neighboring star system. This will be a 16-hour outbound flight. However, there are you being the person that you are, you get the impression that there's more to this than a simple 16-hour flight. But there is nothing specifically being told to you yet. But you just get that feeling like this is too easy to just be a 16-hour outbound flight. Like there's clearly something that's going to happen.
Very quick, yeah. Very low effort.
Freaking Hashin. Is that Wiggles talking to somebody in the background?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Hashin in stream chat says it's WordPad with Clippy. It seems like you're criticizing a pilot. Let me help you with that.
So I definitely want to double check whatever information they have as far as sensor logs go, checking for hazards in the area, all that kind of stuff. I want to check the engineer's report to make sure everything is good there before I, begin to actually pilot.
Okay, so
And
this
the
is why
actuator.
this is why you're still in orbit, correct?
Okay, fine.
Yes.
Okay, yeah. Saw your. Hey, Wiggles, can you mute yourself? I'm thinking like he can't hear us at the moment. Okay, there we go. I think. Okay, yeah. So your pre-flight check is all good to go. No issues, no warnings, no like everything. Everything is tip top, green, zeros, ones where they need to be, things of that nature. So you can go ahead and I'm not gonna actually have your roll right now. You'll break
Okay.
orbit. In about 2 hours out, though, your sensor board just goes fucking crazy. You got 3 missiles coming in on you right now.
Okay.
Your first task, in your virtual environment, you've got like it's kind of like a little text bubble, but it's supposed to represent if an actual captain was sitting next to you or behind you or something like that. And a captain
Okay.
says, pilot evade. I'm sure there's a much more technical or more militaristic sound that would come out of someone's mouth, but basically the pilot is saying, or excuse me, the captain is saying, go ahead and evade. So what I'll need
Yep.
you to do is you'll need to roll piloting 10 plus education. This is to evade the first missile. And you said you had a +5 total mod?
Yeah. Education or intellect?
You know what? Do you feel like Joseph Milligan is more of a natural talent pilot, or is this something he's learned over time?
I mean, where he grew up, there was no no opportunities for him to pilot really, but it's definitely what he always wanted to do.
Okay. Well, go with whichever one gives you the better modifier, I suppose.
Thank you.
All right.
And if they're the same, then go with intellect.
Okay.
Hey, Wiggles, you're not muted.
I don't really like that movie very much. Yeah, I don't know why you don't.
Ooh.
All right. Well, you made a 10. And I feel like I have to yell to get over to talk over Wiggles at the moment.
Can't you mute him?
I can, but then I gotta remember to unmute him. That's the problem.
I'm sorry about that.
Yeah,
I'm sorry about that. I should have. Yeah, I'm sorry.
no worries. We're more amused than anything else. So, okay. So you managed to dodge the first one. The second roll, or excuse me, the second missile requires another 10 plus. Except this time your instructions are to roll the ship, presumably to get the point defense clusters onto the missile's
Right.
bearing.
Yep.
So you'll just need to make another 10 plus roll. I believe the total modifier is still +5. Yep.
There we go.
Yeah, you rolled it, and there's actually like an audio. It takes a few seconds to actually kick off, but there's like this audio file of like muted chain gun firing. Tran kind of has a stupid look on his face, and he's waiting to see if he gets a response from you about it. I'll let you determine how you respond to the fact that he had an audio file kept on hold, and it took about 2 seconds to start up when it should have started up right away. Let's see. And then the last missile, you don't even really get instructions for this one. You notice this third missile is now at the point where it's about to literally go off in your face, and you need to make a quick 10 plus piloting to evade any of the effects.
Alrighty.
And you're good. You managed to dip, duck, dodge, dive, and I fucked that up, but you know where I was going with that.
Yep.
You managed to close the distance
And
before it can arm itself.
the PDCs, are those computer controlled or are those gunner controlled?
They can be either or. I was actually thinking about
Okay.
that earlier today in one of my brainstorming sessions while driving down the road for 8 hours. It
I
was
mean,
actually
Hoffman needs something to do.
well, actually, I think Helwig is the designated gunner, but I think what I was thinking too
Oh,
was
right.
like,
Excuse me.
you could. I'd have to double check my notes for the ship, but I believe the ship could actually impart its own modifier onto the gunnery systems, except that you can actually put a person literally in that gunner seat. So I'd have to double check the rules and the notes, but I think the ship could almost defend itself. To a point.
The rules.
To a point.
The rules say that if you add a gunner, it adds the modifier. If you have the right software, the ship can do it all automatically.
Yeah.
And then with a gunner, it can help prioritize what's the greater threat type of thing.
Yeah, because as we all know, the computer is going to say this is the bigger threat because this, and this. But then the person's like, yes, but that motherfucker's bigger and it's going to take more firepower to take him down.
Exactly.
Or other sorts of threat determination.
So I will mention to Tran
Yeah.
that I was letting his scenario play out, that I noticed that the PDCs were a few seconds behind,
Okay.
and I let him know that that's a task that I can accomplish at the speed of thought
Tran gives you one
while
of those...
while I'm piloting.
Yeah, no, I'm actually processing this, and I'm picturing Tran's face looking similar to mine right now. Like, holy shit. Okay, the human brain is dangerous. Yeah, no, Tran definitely gives that look of, wow, I hadn't even thought about that. Because, in his experience, not that you would necessarily know this, but, this is the first time. Actually, let me back up. You're the first pilot I've seen that, literally can jack into the ship and fly at the speed of thought. That's, oh my God, I'm gonna have to rewrite half of what I've just done. Oh my God. Thank you. I really do appreciate that, because now I can add an intricate layer of detail and difficulty that can be applied specifically for pilots that are wired in. What did you think of the overall, well, one, the overall experience, and two, any particular areas that were good or bad in any of the scenarios that I had?
I let him know that I think it was adequately complex. It started off slow and built. I think that's a good training exercise.
I may or may not have played a video game in my life. Sorry, go ahead.
So, I think as far as, him appealing to Flex to step up their game as far as simulation training goes, it definitely wouldn't hurt a thing.
Impressive. Okay. All right. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah. And Tran will remember this. It may or may not appear on your screen somewhere. That takes us to where am I? Let me get my notes going here. That takes us to Helwig.
Yeah.
For you, my friend. Let me review the little paragraph I got here. Yeah, Paul Gray. You remember him. He was the senior comms tech that had initially gone to the XO and then later came to your character because he thought maybe the XO was involved or otherwise just didn't think he could trust him.
Right.
With all the comms problems that he's been noticing that aren't really problems, but now they are. Yeah, it is probably, not quite middle of the night, but it's still pretty late for someone to come knocking on your door.
Okay, so I mean, I'm just in there in like lounge gear, basically,
Yeah.
not in uniform.
Yeah.
And I open the door up and I look at him and kind of give him first off the evil eye of like, what do you want? What are you doing? And then my brain clicks together like, oh, okay. And I look up and down the corridor real quick, and I pull him inside and I slam the door. And I said that I gave you the contact plan. What's up?
I shit, you're right. I should have. Okay. All right, my bad. All right. Listen, here's the thing. And he pulls out a little geek stick. I believe that was the term that we decided on last session.
Yep.
Or
Yeah.
maybe there's one before.
Yeah.
He pulls out the geek stick that you had given him. and he says, "Check this out." And he like starts to go to your computer or your workstation or whatever, and he realizes like, okay, that's kind of invasive.
So I open up a panel on my arm,
Yeah.
and I say,
Oh, even
I got
better.
I got a subdermal computer. Hang on, and I just grab it out of his hands and I plug it in and I start reviewing the data. And I say, well, what am I looking for?
Okay. And so he kind of like guides you through the little, I imagine the little holographic pop-up screens that come up out of your arm or whatever. And he kind of guides you through a couple of folders. He's like, look at this. Look. Right here. This was 6 o'clock this morning. Okay, 6:55, but who's counting? This message was sent out from this ship today, this morning. Several hours later, he kind of leans in a little bit. It was the 1:23 in the afternoon, whatever. A reply comes back.
Right.
That's super fast.
Right.
That
And
means
I'm
they're
looking.
close.
Yeah. And I'm looking at. I'm like, but all I see is gibberish. I mean, am I? How do I read this?
Okay, so I'm going to give you a handout. If you give me just a second.
Yeah, I mean, like here.
I gotta find you in my DMs. That sounded bad, but it's been a minute since I messaged you directly. Actually, hold on. There's an easier way to do this. I don't know why it's being stupid. Okay, message, and then upload a file, and then go to where are my handouts? Oh, right here.
They'd be in your hand if they're handouts.
Ah, I see what you did there. All right. So what you get, and I just DM'd it to you. All
right.
And this is the file that Gray is showing you. It is a very clear text message, but it's been garbled. Some of the characters don't look right. Some of the formatting of like how words are put together to form sentences, and how sentences can form a paragraph. Like all of that stuff is just completely garbled. But you are able, like what you see in that Word doc, you are able to, over the course of several lines, able to read something of a clear message there. And if you wish to share it with the XO, I will allow you to pass that to him at your discretion.
Okay.
Wiggle says eat at Joe's.
Yeah. Give me a...
And that's just the message that was sent. He's got the... Well, actually, no, that should give you both messages. If I'm not mistaken.
Okay. All right. So I thank him for giving me the information. And I mentioned I don't think the XO is the threat. So I'll I said, give me a couple hours to process this.
Okay.
And let me review this. You need to go back to what you're doing.
Okay.
Remember what I told you. We bump into each other in the mess hall. You may have dropped something.
Yes.
Yep. Okay.
Yep.
And if anything else fails, there's the compartment on the crawler.
Okay.
Right.
All right.
And just put a chalk mark.
Okay.
Don't come here again unless there's a authentic reason.
Okay. All right. Listen, these data bits. There's a message in there, and I can almost crack it. I can't quite figure it out. This information is already off the computers of the ship. It's already gone. I can't even find it. I was only able to grab this because of a watchdog that I put into place.
Okay. All right. So suggestion.
Yes.
Highest suggestion if you want to play this game. Okay. Next stop we get yourself your own little small PC, and that way you can do it outside of the net and get what software you think you need. If you need some assistance with that, we can sit there and talk, because I might be able to help finance that a little bit.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
I know some ways to make cutouts. All right.
Okay.
So let's play this to the chest. But I think I'm going to talk to the XO, because I don't think he's in on this.
Okay. Give me just a second. I gotta write this down before I forget it. I had a brilliant idea for next session. It's not really that brilliant, but to me, I need to write it down, or otherwise I will not remember it. Okay. All right. Yeah. Got it. Okay. Yeah. So he kind of, he reaches over to take the geek stick out of your arm.
No,
And,
and
then, and then he catches himself. Like, he doesn't actually jerk it right out, but he's like really close. He's like,
Yep.
ooh, that might have been bad. I am so sorry.
Yeah,
My bad.
don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. I'll drop it off. I'll drop it off in our one drop location, and I'll send you a message.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know. So then I kind of kill the lights in the room, open the door, look around real quick, and then as I push him out, I say, "Yes, tell the captain I heard the message. Thank you. I'll see him in the morning."
Okay. All right. Yeah, I'll let him know. And then he just
Okay.
saunters off.
And then
go
what
ahead.
I'll do is I'll sit down on my computer and I'll draft a quick message to the XO saying, need to have a one-on-one with you about, and I'll come up with some reason talking about McAvoy. Then we'll go from there.
And what is the XO's response to that message?
He got me with a mouthful. Wyatt responds, sure, you know what my office number is. If it needs to be something more private than that, then we're going to be pulling up in port soon. We can go grab a drink.
Okay. I definitely will visit during the office hours.
I almost heard the term karaoke.
Yeah. Right.
Okay.
I'll mention that it might be a karaoke thing, too.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, no, I do like drinking and singing.
Okay.
Nice. Okay, yeah, so that takes me to the XO, who actually, for his part for tonight, let me see.
Tonight's the night. Gonna party.
Okay, so yeah, in this
That's how that
case,
song goes.
all right, so XO, you put some hacks into place last session, kind of similar to the checksum device you wanted to put into place. If I recall correctly, you were doing, I think you kind of want to do the checksum thing twice, one with software, one with hardware, or something along those lines. Does any of this make any sense to you?
I definitely wanted to have a new verification process that the supposed spy can't know about.
Okay. And I
right, because it's not the comm officer.
Right.
Because it doesn't make any sense for the spy to come know to me unless they felt threatened.
Right.
And I had no idea beforehand. So it's not the comm officer. And it's not my wife, probably.
Hopefully.
God, it's my wife.
I definitely have had those thoughts, though. I'm not going to lie to you. GM using PC contacts. How dare he? Yeah, no, so you do get a brief ping at about 6 or so in the morning on the first full day en route to Neubayern. And then you get another ping roughly 1:30 in the afternoon. And these pings are obviously indications of messages coming and or going that are not carrying your official footers, we'll say. Your secret footers.
Okay. Cool. Well, as soon as I get the return message, I know when the message was just sent, and I know when the return was. So that means if I divide that time in half, then that's approximately how far away the ship is. So I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go because we can only communicate via light speed. So you know, if it takes 8 minutes to travel there, it's gonna take 8 minutes to travel back. So anyway,
But you're also on the FTL speeds at the moment too, so that's a curious note.
Yeah, I will finish down my coffee and I'll tell my wife when you go to the bridge and I'll go to the bridge, you know, hurry, you know, putting on my uniform as I saunter through the 0G hallway.
Yeah.
Make a hole, and I get to the bridge.
Okay. All right. Well, you're up on the bridge. It's so you got the ping at 6 in the morning, 1:30 in the afternoon. When roughly do you feel like you'd be going up on the bridge? What time of day?
I probably would have gone at 6 in the morning just to see what ship they're trying to reach out to.
Okay.
Because yeah.
All right. Well, 6 in the
And
morning.
then
I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
yeah, and then I would pull up the sensor log to see what ships are nearby that we can see.
Okay. When you go up at the 6 o'clock ping, we'll say, you've still got the last couple of hours of the overnight shift still on. So you've got like just a couple people on the bridge, nobody big. I know we have names for all the crew members. I'm not going to figure out exactly who's up there. But because there's only a couple people, there's somebody sitting in the captain's seat. There's somebody sitting at the pilot seat, which leaves pretty much all the other workstations wide open. You come on the bridge. They start to say something. I imagine you'd be like, no, stand down. It's fine. And you just wander over to the comm station. I imagine that's what you're doing.
I am wandering over to the comm station to see if I can get the log thing, and then I'm going to wander over. Are these like universal workstations? Can I pull up any duty station on any terminal or?
I feel like as the XO, you would be able to. In theory, you should be able to go to any station and at least remote access another station, where it won't be quite as efficient or effective than the use of the actual station. So, for instance, if you go to the comm station and you try to hit the sensors and try to get the sensors to do a full sensor sweep or something silly like that, there might be a bit of a delay in information processing or transfer. It won't be as effective to run sensors because you're doing it in a remote fashion. But otherwise, yeah, I feel like any station you go to, you can almost sort of turn it into a universal station.
So my first goal was to see if I can recover the message, and then my second goal is to see what ships are nearby.
Okay. With the comms, go ahead and give me some sort of... there it is. Give me some sort of communications, computers... I forget the exact skill, and I don't have a character sheet right in front of me because I was too distracted with my cat, to be honest.
There's electronic comms.
Yeah, let's do that one. Roll.
Okay, I can do that one.
Yeah, do that one 10 plus.
All right, EDU or INT?
Whichever's better.
Ooh,
it doesn't matter.
I got a 14.
Doesn't matter.
I was on my shit.
You definitely can. In fact, this is how this works out. So the ping hits your I'm gonna say link device. It hits your thing at about 6 o'clock in the morning. Best as you can tell, the time between when the message was sent and when you got notice, about 45 seconds. So it takes maybe 5 to 10 minutes to get up to the bridge from your station, or excuse me, from your quarters or wherever you were, because you want to drink coffee and all that other stuff. By the time you get to
I bought a $500 coffee maker.
I would be drinking my coffee too. So yeah, by the time you get up to the bridge, it's probably about 10 minutes or so later. And the message you are able to pull up is already deleted. However, because you rolled that 12, Mr. Charles, if you'd be so kind as to send him the same handout that I sent you.
Yeah, do it, Charles.
And I will include that with when you do, basically when you repeat this process at the 1:30 time. So you'll get both the initial message and its response. When you look at sensors, one thing to remember, or to remind both the players and the viewers, if I'm not mistaken, a ship in FTL doesn't have very good sensors for anything outside of its little FTL bubble. Not quite as severe as making a hyperspace jump in the official Traveler universe, but I feel like it's a very similar, just not quite as...
I have a very loose understanding of how stellar warp works, though.
Yeah, actually, no, you know what? I take that back. I apologize. Here's what happens, is because effectively the ship has minimal velocity change, like delta V, for instance. Whatever delta V it already had prior to the initiation of stutter warp, it still has that same delta V. The stutter warp doesn't impart velocity. what it does is it literally picks up the ship from one point and moves it a few hundred yards in another point. That means your sensors are still working, but because you're making each of these individual jumps several times a second, many times a second, whatever it is, you're getting sensor lag. The information you get on your screen was effective or accurate X amount of time ago, probably something like minutes ago, because of how quickly you're moving and how long it takes the computer to pick up the information, translate it, and present it to something that a human brain could comprehend. So what you are getting is that there appears to be an anomalous blip somewhere in the neighborhood of about 100 astronomical units to a light year away. But it cannot pinpoint, it cannot define it. And one of the main reasons why it can't do anything more than that is because you are at stutter warp velocities. You're literally blinking in and out of life, not life, in and out of reality. And the sensors just can't process that. Go ahead.
Let me ask you this. Were we transmitting in front of us, or were we transmitting behind us?
That information is indeterminate.
Oh, shoot, stupid cat. Just stepped right in my junk.
Oh man, this cat will occasionally. So when I'm laying in bed, I'm trying to get the cat to stop meowing, because it'll come up to me. I'll pet it for a minute, then it'll walk away and start meowing, and then I have to coax it back into bed. And I'm not trying to get out of bed, so many a times I'd be like, "All right, here comes the cat climbing back up onto my bed. Yep, don't you step on my. Oh, thank God, that was so close." Yeah, so as far as trying to determine direction based on the fact that a lot of communication in this era is going to be point to point, which means you have to have a very specific bearing, it is indeterminate. And again, some of the reason for it to be indeterminate is based on the fact that you're moving at the velocities you're moving. Some of it is just on the fact that that data is not being stored on the sensors or the comms, partially because of the whoever's trying to send it, trying to cover their tracks.
I can talk about the sensors a little bit and the FTL.
Sure.
You may not want to know, or you
I'm
may
curious.
just want to hand wave it away. So you're talking about passive sensors and active sensors, okay?
Yeah.
So if this was a ship behind us and we were trying to ping them with active sensors, we would never get the bounce back because we're traveling faster than the bounce back could even happen.
Exactly.
Because our sensors are bound by sea, right? And we're going
Right.
superliminal.
And honestly, the same thing about passive sensors. You know, at best, whatever's coming off of that ship is traveling at the speed of light, but we're traveling faster than that. So if we left a system and they left behind us, even with passive sensors, we're never going to see them.
And conversely, if they were to follow you, say for instance, if they knew the exact heading that you were going to take and were able to follow you even just a few seconds behind, they would have the same problem once both ships are at superluminal speeds, and that the bounce back wouldn't happen. And I'm using that as the basis for hand waving that there is an anomalous blip. It can't determine exact distance. It can't determine exact bearing. It can't even determine anything other than that there's some anomaly somewhere within 100 AU to a full light year away, but the information is too erratic, too unrefined to give a specific pinpoint.
Right.
But it does seem to give the impression that not necessarily that something's following you, but definitely that there's something there. Or maybe it's a ghost in the system. And I say that in a sensor shadow sort of way, not any sort of like cyberpunk sort of thing.
And Milligan is on the bridge for this second episode of all this, by the way.
Yeah, you would be on because usually the alpha shift or whatever you want to call it is roughly 9 to 5 or 8 to 4 or something like that. I never clearly defined the shifts. But yeah. Anything else you want to do? Wiggles, did you get the handout from Charles?
Did.
Sorry.
Bunch of X's.
Yes, there is. That's on purpose. That's just to represent how garbled the messages are. Again, just imagine not all in just a couple of compact lines like it's shown, but it's scattered across. You know, each message takes up a full sheet of paper, but if you were to condense it down to single lines or whatever, that this is what it would look like. And again, data is not necessarily corrupted. It was obviously being attempted to be deleted. The gist of it for both Commander Wyatt and Armsman Helwig is that only because Comstech Gray has such communications experience that he does with various protocols and tracking software and things of that nature, it was he able to, I guess you could say, resurrect that message in such a way that you guys could look at it and be like, yep, that's a lot of X's. I don't know what the hell's going on there. But there is a message. You can decipher it. Ask me how I know. Because I forgot to save the key. Or not the key, but the... So this is what I did. I actually wrote those two little paragraphs, right? And then I went through and replaced a bunch of letters with X's. Except when I did that, I didn't save the original actual message until I noticed tonight that I hadn't done that, and I had to sit there and go, what the hell did I even write? And I actually had to go based on my memory of what the messages were generally about, and then have to figure out, okay, well, obviously just about every single X on that note is actually a different letter. So let me see if I can piecemeal this together. So good luck. It can be done. Beyond that, where are my notes? Anything else for any of the three of you for anything over the next day and a half as you continue onward to Neubayern? It's an invitation for NFT server.
So I'm gonna
You
swing by
said
the Exos room as next office
Jesus
hours,
Christ.
Yeah.
and I'm going
Or you got
to
attacked by a
close the door and ask, basically say, hey, I have this message. This kind of concerns me. And I present I pull the geek stick out of my arm and present it to him. And I say, if you have a private PC, I recommend you upload it that way to read it. If not, then
I do have a private PC. I spent so much money on equipment.
So I mentioned that it's kind of undecipherable. There's some concerns from the comm department. I have an agent I'm working, an access point I'm working, but I suspect that we may have a spy on board.
So you'll see a Wyatt. He like wrinkles his brow, and then he'll take out the bug jammer and turn it on, and in a rare instance you'll see him loudly swear, which he doesn't. He's often not prone to such outbursts. And he goes, the comm offer approached you, yes?
I'd rather protect my source at this point.
The comm offer approached you because he approached me, and I told him explicitly not to talk to anyone else. You are not in trouble, but I'm pretty pissed about this.
Well, don't come down on him. Don't come down on him because he was under the impression that others may be involved in this conspiracy. And I mentioned that, when we boarded at the space station, there was that space station event, and now we have a couple other weird things. And then, and I briefly bring up that, one of the people with McAvoy mentioned him meeting somebody mysteriously in a bar before he had run across a random, and I air quote random, assault on the streets.
Yeah.
Look at that paranoid investigator, guys. Random mugging.
I mean, I knew he was a pirate, right? And you know he was a pirate. That's just like shared information between us, right?
I had my suspicions. I had mentioned. I'll mention that he matched a description of somebody we were looking for.
He was a pirate. He was an ex-pirate. You don't live that lifestyle without getting a lot of people mad at you, and not necessarily just his victims. Like, I don't know if you know this, but the reason why I joined that reflects is my ship got destroyed in a pirate war a couple of years ago.
Oh no, I didn't know that. All I know is that I ran across him when we got involved with the background, and I mentioned my background working for that arms company on the
Yeah,
call,
no.
and we had some smugglers going on, and he was one of those smugglers taking our
Uh,
military grade arms.
it would be unlikely for. Look, McVoy had a lot of good qualities that he made it incredibly difficult to appreciate.
Yep.
It's such a good way of saying he was such an asshole.
And yeah. Anyhow, longer than short is that I think we have a threat. And I mentioned, and I'm gonna look at the EXO and go, and that metal fatigue testing wasn't for metal fatigue, was it?
Don't mind me. I'm just easily amused.
I was bug sweeping the ship.
Okay. All right. Yeah. There's already talk going on down at the various decks. Just so you know, in case you haven't heard the whimpers and whines coming up. There's some people worried that we're
I
actually
also, in for what's worth, we also actually legitimately did metal fatigue test the ship.
right. I had to calm a couple people down because they thought we were honestly going to implode or something like that.
No. The vacuum of space is terrible and deadly, and radiation breaks down everything. You have to do frequent tests to make sure everything is still solid as it was.
Right.
Metal fatigue is a common maintenance thing.
Right. I understand. Anyhow, I don't know how bad or how dangerous the conspiracy runs right now. But I did run across something similar when I was on the police force of the Colonial Police Department, in my sector, and I feel like we need to play this close to the chest until we can figure out what is going to happen next.
I was trying to. He says, still kind of mad the situation has grown out of his control slightly.
Right.
It's like, for what it's worth, my wife is aware of the situation,
Okay. All right.
and I made a close contact I have with Flex aware of the situation as well.
Okay. I'm working the comms officer as an agent. Yes. And I have him delivering me geek stick drops of the messages.
You have to. He cannot tell anyone else.
I've impressed that upon him that if he tells someone else, he may accidentally find himself out an airlock without a suit.
No, we're not a big ship, and we're not a big ship. It doesn't take a lot for rumors. It doesn't take a lot to be overheard.
Yep. So, but that's what we got going on. If I find anything else, I'll swing by as part of my security force duties to drop this to your hands.
And to be clear, we're having this conversation, and I have the bug jammer up.
Tracking. You're good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just to be sure about that. I made sure that was up before we did the conversation.
You have your Harken and Cone of Silence activated.
Yeah. We both have a glass tube over us. We can't hear one another. It's great.
There you go. What was that, Agent Smart?
Yes.
Yeah.
Get smart.
Get smart. That's it. Oh man, I haven't seen that in a while. All right.
Yeah. So anyhow, yeah. So I close this off, and then as I walk out, and I go, EXO, everything's all secure with the conveyors, and we're continuing the metal fatigue sweep.
Nice.
Yes, thank you, sir. All right. Keep me updated. Dismissed.
All right. And I salute smartly and carry on, going off to my next wherever.
Wyatt's gonna chew some Tums.
Chew some Tums to find some Jack. Something. He's got some nervous issues going on right now. Oh man. Alright, let me update my stream overlay real fast so I can adjust for the day. Does anybody else have anything else they want to do before you guys arrive in the Neubayern system.
No, I'm just doing my studying for become a sensor operator.
Okay.
So
Let's see. What's the time of departure? I'm just checking my notes to see exactly how long it takes to get there. So you guys should be arriving in the system on the 6th of May at about 11:30 in the morning. Let's see. And once in the system, it'll take an additional day and 3 hours. So that takes it up to about we're gonna say 14:45 on the second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth. So it is the 6th. That would be Sunday, would make it the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Thursday, the 6th of May, and you guys are making your way down. So basically, I'm not going to have any rolls. I'm going to kind of narrate through the next little bit here. It takes about an additional day and 3 hours to transit through the system. In that time, any efforts attempting to find other ships that are following or trailing or shadowing the Wayfinder, any efforts to do so, I'm not going to have you roll for it. It's just not going to happen. I'm going to pull the GM card and say that any efforts to figure that stuff out it's just not going to work. As well as the fact that this is a kind of a busy system. Neubayern is an orange K7 mace. Oh my god. I really do know how to talk, I promise. Orange K7 main sequence star, positioned about 14.5 light years from Earth and orbited by about 11 planets in a single asteroid belt. There are no gas giants in the system. There are a number of icy planets in the outer orbitals that could be considered large. Nibelungen is the sole habitable planet and was originally settled by German colonists and established in 2169. So about roughly 130 years ago. The planet is tidally locked with the parent star and orbits roughly 3/4 of an astronomical unit from the primary. There are 3 distinct climate zones on the planet, generally regarded as the day side, the night side, and the Twilight region that separates the two. And this, of course, in the Twilight zone. Oh, wow. Not what I meant to say. Not in the Twilight zone. In the Twilight region. In the Twilight region is where most of human civilization can be found. Nibelungen boasts a well-developed local biosphere, although it has had significant influxes of Terran species in the settled areas as well. The world is a site of an extensive colonization program, one of the most successful ever attempted, especially given the difficulties of colonizing a tidally locked world with a thin atmosphere. The colony is in direct support of the asteroid mining and shipbuilding industry, which provides much of the wealth for this colony. The shipyards here, by the way, rival the output of the yards found around Earth and terrain. So the Nibelungen shipyards can actually put out, let's say if Earth and terrain can put out, let's say, 3 or 4 ships a day. I have no idea if that's factual or not. I'm just using an example. The Nibelungen can put out like anywhere between 1 and 3 ships a day itself. There is an A-rated starport west of Schoenbleck, which I believe is the capital of the planet, or its main city or colony. Sorry, I felt my cat pulling on my headset cord, but he's not even near me. It'll take you about an hour or so to deorbit and land, and then once you guys are flying down towards the starport, you'll be directed towards the appropriate runway, and then eventually into a berthing area where the ship will stay. Captain Briggs wants to be underway again as soon as the discharge process is complete, roughly 42 hours from now. So you've got about 2 days to conduct any shipboard, off-ship business that you've got. As far as content for the rest of the night, scenes of that nature, if you guys don't have anything, I don't have anything. So I'm going to kind of run through like the formalities of stuff, especially like the trade and the bookkeeping things. But unless you guys have anything you really want to get into, I don't have any further content planned for tonight. So I'll start with Charles.
Okay.
Is there any scenes or anything that you want to do once the ship is down on the ground and docked and all that?
No, just kind of I'll swing by the comms officer and I'll slip him about 1,000 lira and say, here's your backgammon winnings that I owe you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks. Man, really glad you were able to pay that out so fast. I didn't think it'd be for like another week or so, but man, you really helped me out there.
Well, since we're hitting port, I mean, go have fun.
Yeah,
And then
appreciate that.
I'm gonna go off and go find my own thing. See you back aboard ship when we're done the port visit.
Yeah, sure. As you like just barely make it out of earshot, you hear him mutter something under his breath, and you're pretty sure it sounded like, "The fuck even is backgammon?" Am I saying that backgammon? What the fuck is that?
Hey, I'll have you know, backgammon literally goes to the ancient Roman Empire.
Oh, I know. I just wanted to say something silly, just based on the fact of how the word sounds. I know backgammon's got a long history. I don't know anything about the game other than, if I'm not mistaken, it's the one that you have black and white discs that you move around on triangles or something like that.
Yep. That's basically it. Yeah.
And I have absolutely no idea how to play. And I just wanted to make a joke about how the name of the game sounded. Anyway, so yeah. Milligan, sorry. You got anything that you want to get into on the surface of the planet?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. No worries. And then lastly, Wiggles, I gave you the trade handout.
Yep.
You don't need to resolve any of that tonight. Just give me an update by the end, or before the next session. I do need the NPC's broker skill. Oh, that's a great idea.
Yeah, between like 0 and 5, or -3. -3 is cool.
No, it won't be that easy. Let me see what I got here. There you go. They have what's the modifier for a 7? That's 0. So, yeah, you got a +2 modifier for the broker that you got locally.
Okay, fantastic. All right, cool. I'm gonna make a shit ton of money.
You're welcome.
What I'm gonna do.
I do have a couple of notes for you, XO. Birthing with power and life support connections will run 2,000 Libra a week, prorated at 285 a day or 12 an hour.
Oh wow, super cheap.
Yeah, I believe I'm paying. Somebody said something. I think it was Milligan that had asked about the basically the port costs and how ridiculous they are, and I kind of took a little bit harder look. And the fact that the one difference here versus the last 2 or 3 ports you guys have been at is you can actually land on the planet and walk around without a skin suit on.
Yep.
Although I will point out, with a thin atmosphere, respirators are recommended for anyone doing strenuous work outside the ship. That are, anybody that's not already accustomed to, thin atmosphere, or they have the DNA mod for it. But yeah, 2,000 a week, prorated at 285 a day or 12 an hour. Fuel is 2,000 per ton. The ship has used 15 tons of fuel out of the, I believe, 75 that it carries.
So 30,000.
Yep. And so downtime. You guys have a little bit of shore leave. And we don't necessarily need to go into it. So if you want to come up with a couple ideas between now and next session, that'd be cool. I will point out a couple things. I don't have an exact number of the population for the the city of Schönbleck, but imagine it is at least a medium to large city, so probably in the neighborhood of a couple 100,000 people living in there. And so therefore, anything you would imagine in a decent sized city anywhere in the US, you can imagine there. Just instead of an American skin, it has a German skin. There are shuttles for conveying people from the starport to the city. The city-based drop-off point is near a major market area, and then also in that area is a transit system that you can basically go anywhere within the city, whether it be air car, bus, train, subway, things of that nature. So basically, not much different than any other large city on Earth, and is what you're looking at here. With all
I have
of
a
your,
quick-
go ahead.
I have a quick question about training.
Uh-huh.
Is the beginning interval 2 weeks or is it 4 weeks? Like to learn a skill to start with, is that a 2-week interval or a 4-week interval?
I believe it's a 4-week training period.
Okay, all right. I just couldn't
Uh,
remember.
I'm gonna have to look that
I'll
up.
have to look it up.
Yeah. And you're talking about going from untrained to 0, correct?
Right.
Okay.
It's the same to go from untrained to 0 as it is to go from 0 to 1, and then after that it doubles every time.
Well, it's one 8-week period per level you're trying to go up. So, or if you're going from like 1 to 2, that's a full 8-week period. If you're going from 2
Right.
to 3, now it's 2 training periods or something like that. I'd have to double check how
Yeah.
the skills work. I'm going completely off memory right now.
Yeah. I just couldn't remember what that base time amount
Yeah.
was, whether it was 2 weeks or 4 weeks. Okay.
Gotcha.
If it's 4 weeks, I'm nowhere close. So,
Yeah. And do keep in mind that I know in Traveler, you have a solid week in jump. And that's exactly what the skill
Right.
system was built around. Whereas here in 2300, we're counting it more or less by jumps, even though it's not
Yep.
quite a full week. Although it comes really close, when you look at departing from the surface of one planet, going out to the edge of the system, going FTL, and arriving at the edge of a system and going to the surface of another planet. That entire time can be roughly 4 to 7 days, depending on your ship's setup. So, on that note, does anybody have anything else about tonight's session? I know it was a little short. I thought I had a little bit more prepped. I had a whole nother, we'll call it chapter, but I never actually went back and finished writing it up. So,
is the Wayfinder a set ship deck plan, or is it something you made?
it is a custom.
Okay.
I do have, I believe Wiggles called it. It's a bunch of boxes that he calls a floor plan, which is about as good as a descriptor as you can get for what I came up with.
Okay.
It gives you a very good idea what the ship is, but it's not. We can use it for minifigs.
Yeah, it would work for a basic idea, but don't look for anything near published quality. I'll have to see of it. But yeah, I do apologize for the slightly shorter. We also didn't take a break and everything, but I do apologize for the slightly shorter than normal session. The other thing I'm not entirely used to is, well, we don't need to talk about that right now. I think you guys got the subtle hint there. It probably wasn't quite so subtle. How we feeling?
Who wants to take a guess how much?
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Who wants to take a guess how much money we made?
From just this on this drop right here?
Yeah.
So you've sold stuff already.
I did all the rolling and stuff like that, yeah, and I did find the guide thing.
Okay. I'm gonna go with $1 million.
Ooh, all right, $1 million. What about the other two players? We got $1 million. You don't want to go higher? Want to go lower?
I'm gonna say 850.
Ooh,
50 million?
850.
850.
850. This is he's
850.
he's throwing out Prices Right numbers is what he's doing.
All right, okay, we'll do Prices Right rules. All right. So we got $1 million. We got 850. All right, last person. What's your number?
What do you got, Charles?
$1.
No, I'm gonna go with 550.
550. All right.
Austin says $1 million and one.
Closest to it without going over is $1 million. We made $1,021,100.
Look at that, Hashin. You got the Prices Right prize. Not that I have one. Hashin in stream chat says $1 million and one. So.
Oh, there you are. I missed that. He is technically closest. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. That is awesome. Wow. I might have to start watching a little bit more closely. I think you're cheating. I'm totally joking. Yeah. So let's start with some outros. Unless anybody else has anything else they want to cover real quick before we head out.
Nope.
All right, Charles. Let's get thoughts for tonight and any outro related comments you might have.
I thought tonight was a good segue back into the season. You're probably gonna die laughing as you go through the Give Some Clips channel.
I can't wait. I've already
yeah.
seen them because I had clicked up back onto Discord, and so it counted them as read. But I'm gonna go in there and I'm gonna scroll back some.
Right. Otherwise, I thought with this new session it went a lot smoother.
I wonder. I mean, yeah.
And I, I think it'll be interesting when we get ready to the next major event. See how we do with some stuff here. But no, I think it'll be interesting to see where some of the character development happens, because we still have a mystery character here, Mr. Mulligan.
You talking about the intern?
Wait.
Yeah.
Why am I a mystery?
You're a mystery because we don't know. You know how like animals act when the new person is brought around? Like, don't know if I trust you. You smell good, but I don't know if I trust you yet.
Yeah, basically.
Well, at least they know I'm not the spy, because all that stuff started. I mean, I don't even know about it, but all that stuff started before I even got here. So,
I don't know. Actually, I think all that stuff started the same session you showed up.
Yeah.
No, because there's all that stuff about the station blowing. There's all that stuff about that station blowing up, and all that kind of stuff.
That's as far as we know, that's unrelated.
Yeah, and y'all were talking. Y'all were talking about comms, I think, right before I got here.
Was it that early when we first brought that up?
Yeah.
I'd have to go back and look. I don't remember when I started that storyline. Speaking of the comms issues, how do you like that handout?
That was an interesting.
It's fine. It's good.
Yeah.
It's legible.
Yeah, it's
some kind of headhunter, a duke.
Some of the words are easy to pick out, obviously, but
Right. Yeah. It'll take some time if I really wanted to go crack it, but it ought to be fun for a little bit. But it ought to be more interesting as we go further along. And my only other outro comment is that summer's here, so enjoy your daytime fun and adventures on the weekend.
Yeah, and if you live further north in the United States, enjoy your daytime. As I look outside, it's like almost 9:30, and it appears like the sun has maybe dropped below the horizon. I'm not sure.
Mine has not.
Yeah, and yours won't for a while.
And then it comes up at like 3:00 in the morning. So.
Yeah. Oh my god! The other day I woke up at like 5:30 in the morning, and I've got sunlight coming in from my room, and I'm so fucking confused. I'm like, are you certain it's 5:30 in the morning? Like, did somebody fuck with my phone and change the time settings on it or something? I was so confused.
Just remember, you gotta be home before the streetlights come on.
They're on already, so I guess I gotta come home. All right, Joseph Thurgor, what do you got for us? Thoughts for tonight and any other outro related comments?
Well, I will say I will second and third and fourth everybody's comments about how much smoother our session went today. I very much appreciate that.
Indeed.
And it's good to get back in the saddle again, and I'm looking forward to get to Beowulf because I want us to all go hunt a dragon.
There's dragons on Beowulf?
Yep.
Yeah, I gotta look it up. I know there's a big critter there.
There's two different. There's like a cave dragon, and then there's like dragon bats.
Yeah, they're not quite dragons, but they're close enough in design or concept that they can be this franchise's alien dragon creature. Because there's a similar one in BattleTech as well. I forget what world they're from. There's
a rifle out there that was designed solely to kill the dragons on Beowulf.
Yeah, no, I believe that. By the way, Hashin says for our Price is Right prize is that Tran gets a cowboy hat next session. Marshall Tran, your navigator / boss. And I'm actually kind of curious where he came up with that idea, and I'm actually kind of rocking it right now in my head. I'm like, no, I can see this short Asian, blonde-haired, not dyed blonde, but like naturally blonde-haired.
Now he looks like the guy for Nope.
I don't know that one.
We need to get
him a horror movie.
Oh. Still done. I thought I had it, but anyway. Thurgor, anything else?
Nah, we can also get Tran a 10-star, since he's a marshal.
This is first. Listen, all those names are generated randomly from one name generator page or another, and I tried to go with like not your basic like David Johnson, Matthew Smith. I try to put like a little bit of thought or consideration into the names, and I got some decent ones. You know, they all seem like they could actually be real people, and that was what I was going for. As well, of course, you know, a fair amount of diversity because let's be honest, there's only so many Susan Johnsons and David Smiths that we need in this game. We need some creative names. Latoya Hurst, Julio Franco.
That's all right. It would be a good gag gift that as the new guy he could get his boss.
That is actually, yeah, though. Oh, I heard your name was Marshall Tran. Thanks, Marshall. And be like, not calling him by his name, but calling him by his rank.
Yep. And
Yeah.
just drop it off on his desk.
Just let it be a running gag for like ever.
Yes.
Marshall Tran will be dead from some combat action. 20 years later, people will still be talking about, yeah, I remember old Marshall Tran. He used to wear a 10-gallon hat, chewing on a cigar. Wiggles, what do you got for from tonight and whatever outro related comments you might have?
I made $1 million. I'm going to retire.
It's fucking awesome right there. Flex thanks you for your contribution to their coffers. Because 70% of $1 million is $700,000. What else you got, man?
Also, we managed to pay the entire crew and salary stuff. So you know, we're even carrying our own weight. We're a net positive ship. That's what I care about. I care about those numbers. Fuck people.
We don't need people. We just need numbers.
We just need numbers.
Yeah.
I don't even see people. I just see A, B, 12.
12 is C, by the way.
Yes, it is.
You sank my battleship.
Yeah, there you go.
No, I had a good time. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I did have a good time, and I know we didn't have a lot of content planned. I didn't have a lot of content planned, but I think what we did, I think we executed it very well. The Marshall Tran's simulator plan went maybe a little bit longer than I intended, and maybe there was more there than I intended as far as trying to have an equal divide or equal share for everybody, but I think it definitely had a little bit of a role-playing element there for Milligan and his boss. I really did appreciate the scene between Hellwig and Wyatt as well. I like the idea of facilitating players interacting with other players, and so it's not always just about player and GM. It's player and player. So I think that was a really cool thing. Go ahead.
The consequence of my position on the ship means I talk to a lot of NPCs.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And there's more NPCs on the ship than there is player characters, so it's easy to have that player GM thing. But as a GM at the table, I like to have players interacting with each other, so that admittedly, part of that is because I don't have to do some of the work. Like I just set it up and let you guys run with it. But also, I want the players to be able to get along with each other and their characters to be able to get along with each other as well. You know, within the parameters of their character concept. So, no, tonight was a good session. Go ahead, Wiggles.
Yeah, I had a good time. Good time. What are our pilots? I want to get our pilot involved with the spy stuff too. I just don't know what your other skills are besides pilot good.
He's actually got a little bit of everything. Not everything. I'll let Thurgor answer that though.
Yeah, you can just bring me in and quiz me. I can run down it all. Level 1 astrogation, level 1 electronics computer, level 1 electronics comms, gunner turret 1. Got some rifle skills, got a couple language skills. Small ship and large ship piloting both 1, recon 1, stealth 1, streetwise 1, and of course my obligatory vac suit.
We're gonna name him Jack, and his last name is gonna be of all trades.
Right. Plus, the neural Jack helps me be Jack of all trades, really, to some degree, anyway. You know, it's not a replacement for expertise. It can get rid of your unskilled mod if you have a good enough reference book for it. But yeah, I get +3 on quite a few checks that are in my reference library, except that it takes me twice as long to do the task. And then I get some pretty good skill checks on operating any kind of equipment, vehicles, ships, that kind of stuff when I'm jacked in. So, and I can be jacked into a terminal and I can access pretty much, I mean, within security parameters, pretty much anything, that's on the network. So like I was talking about with Tran and the PDCs, I could have activated the PDCs myself after I rolled that ship in the simulation. But I figured it probably wasn't set up for that. So I was just letting it run its course.
No, it definitely was not set up for that. Tran / the
Yep.
GM did not think about that.
Yeah, I would have broken the simulation.
Yeah. Yep, the simulation would have turned back a 0.
So yeah, I mean, as far as running down all those comms issues y'all are having, I definitely have, I think enough skills to help a little bit with that, and maybe have an
Yeah,
idea.
no, I want to see if we can get you reasonably involved with that stuff to get y'all involved in what is right now our plot. I don't want to leave you hanging.
Well, when it comes to plot, obviously getting another player in the mix, I'll figure something out. But of course, this isn't, this plot is meant to be kind of a, I'm going to say breadcrumb, even though it's not necessarily the right term. This is meant to bring you guys into the bigger plot that is going on that will in time reveal itself. So, yeah, getting all the players involved will be interesting. I'm sure I can come up with something given sufficient amount of time.
Hey,
My cat is going
okay.
crazy right now. He won't shut up. Don't you claw my wall. It's on the back of my... I don't know if you can see it on the stream. Maybe if I move my head. He was back there, and he's like trying to reach
forgot.
up. Go ahead.
I forgot how big the cargo hold is in the Wayfinder. I can't remember.
22.
22? Thank you.
22 tons.
I should put that down somewhere.
It wouldn't hurt. It's in the ship notes I gave you, too.
22 tons. There we go.
Yep. All right. Last chance before I close it out. Anybody got anything else?
I'm good.
Yeah. I'm good.
All righty. Stop clawing my carpet. What the hell is wrong with you, cat? You just want attention? Is that what it is? Yeah, he probably just wants some attention. All right. All right, my friends, that is it for tonight and for the week. Thank you, everybody, for stopping by and hanging out, even if it was just for a little bit, or if all you did was just hang out in the shadows. We appreciate it nonetheless. Join us coming up next on Sunday, the 25th. Greyland Trios League Week 8, the final regular season game of our 3-on-3 Battle Mech League. We've got a couple of good matches lined up, and that will be the last big game for the race for the Trinity Cup. We'll have to see how the rest of the postseason plays out after that. Monday, we'll have some Solasta Crown of the Magister, followed by Blood and Glory on Tuesday, and of course next week, Wednesday, we will be back here as the crew of the Wayfinder figures out what to do while on the planet Nibelungen, and maybe between now and then they'll figure out, what is my cat doing? Maybe between now and then these players will figure out the handout that I gave them and see if they can start putting some clues together and figure out who or what is going on within the French arm / the human sphere of existence. I don't know. Something weird is afoot. That's all I can say. All right, but anyway, we're going to get out of here. I'm going to stop talking because otherwise, anything past this point, I'm just rambling, filling air. So, have a good night, my friends. See you again next time.
Right.